Welcome to the Paranormal Stakeout radio TV show with Larry Lawson. As a former career law enforcement officer and law enforcement educator, Larry focuses on the use of tried and true law enforcement investigative techniques in conducting paranormal investigations. Despite his experience and training, Larry also keeps an open mind to discussions on topics that deal with evidence that are not quite as physical in nature. Paranormal Stakeout guests are professionals in the field of the paranormal and parapsychology, conducting the investigations and research needed to further the cause of paranormal study. Larry advocates an agenda of standardization of structure and training in the field of paranormal investigation and research for the purpose of one day being able to produce the evidence needed to convince a jury of the existence of the paranormal. Whether it is ghosts, UFOs, unsolved mysteries, hauntings or cryptids, no topic is beyond the investigative reach of Larry Lawson and the Paranormal Stakeout radio TV show team. Now, here is the host of the Paranormal Stakeout radio TV show, Larry Lawson.
And good evening, everyone. Welcome back to Paranormal Stakeout. I'm your host, Larry Lawson, coming to you from beautiful Vero Beach, Florida, where it's a balmy 65 degrees, I think, right now, which irritates our friends at the X Zone headquarters up in Canada. But it's a nice time to be in Florida during the winter. Want to thank everybody for being here tonight. And if you want to learn a little bit more about what we do down here in Florida at the headquarters of the Florida Bureau of Paranormal Investigation and Indian River Hauntings, check us out at our websites at paranormalfbi.com or indianriverhauntings.com. You can also check us out on our YouTube channel, which is at Indian River Hauntings 2341. And you can get a hold of me also at ghostguy59@gmail.com. Now, as far as the show here is, you can check out all the other programs we've had on Paranormal Stakeout. Go to paranormalstakeout.org. And if you'd like to send me a message, let me know what you think of the show. Maybe you've got some questions, some things that you'd like to see discussed. Go ahead and write me at ghostguy@paranormalstakeout.org. Also, would like you to check out the X Zone Radio and TV Broadcast Network for all the great programming there. Now, as most of you know, and as the name of the show kind of gives it away, I spent 40 years in law enforcement. And during that time, I spent a lot of time investigating and teaching police officers how to investigate crimes involving as victims or otherwise alternative religions, whether it be the Southern Afro-Caribbean cults, voodoo, Palomayombe, Santeria, whether it be involved bikers or all kinds of different groups out there. I spent a lot of time uh, teaching officers how to recognize and how to talk to folks that are in different religious sects and spiritual beliefs. So tonight, I really wanted to bring somebody on the show that can talk about some of the things that you may not really think about in spirituality, and that's some alternate religions, particularly Wicca, and their spiritual beliefs, and also involving what they think about the other side, what happens with life after death. So, with that, I'd like to introduce to you my guest tonight is Cat. He's known as Cat. He's a veteran of our military, and he's been studying the occult since he's been a pagan since 1991 and began reading tarot cards at age 13. I said he served our country in the military. So we thank you for your service, Kat, and welcome to the show.
My honor, sir. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's an interesting subject because we spend a lot of time in this show talking about paranormal events, whether it be ghosts, cryptids, UFOs, but often that discussion turns towards spirituality and religion. And sometimes folks don't realize the differences in religions or beliefs out there. So I really appreciate you being on the show. And if you can take a second to share with the audience a little bit about yourself and what it is you do.
So right now I'm retired from business life. I do read tarot cards, starting up a couple of channels for online stuff. We'll see how that goes this year. But yeah, like yourself, I was law enforcement. I was military police for 2 years before I got out.
Mhm.
That kind of, I think that lends itself very well to what you do and what I do, looking at things very reasonably and logically and seeing, okay, is there a different explanation for what's going on here?
Agreed, and it's, called also having a bit of an open mind because we can't stereotype and pigeonhole things because then we don't get the answers, do we? To Now, you what do you, let me back up a little bit. You began reading tarot cards at age 13.
I did.
What sent you down that road of tarot cards, and was that the beginning of your travel towards paganism?
It was. And the way I actually got started is I had a very strange lady that lived down the street from me that, looking back, I would say was probably the first Wiccan I ever met, although she didn't advertise that. But she gave me a pack of tarot cards when I was 13 for my birthday.
So what made her do that?
I
Did
have
you
no
did
clue. I didn't ask for
Interesting.
it. I don't know if she saw something in me, if intuitively she saw something that said, this is something that I could do. I don't have an answer for that,
So how
but
did you I
that's
mean,
how it got.
did you self-teach yourself, how to do it, or
Yeah, I was the weird kid in school that the girls would go to at lunchtime and say, "Hey, look at your cards and tell me if this boy likes me."
Okay, okay. Well, obviously, that must have sent you down, the path to your spiritual beliefs. How did
It
that come
did.
about, if I may ask you?
Well, again, starting at that age, got very interested in things that weren't common, ghosts and cryptids and legends. I am part Cherokee, so I have that part, and I have part of that as my genetic background and my interest in Native American lore. But what really got me started into paganism was when I got out of the military and I tried to get back into the church where I was raised, which was Methodist, and it just didn't click for me. And I was very lost. I was a very lost person spiritually. And I just could not reconcile that part of me that had been a warrior for many years and was then turned around and said, you know, hey, you're supposed to love everybody. And I couldn't get any reconciliation in my brain with that whole thing.
Mhm.
So uh, I had moved to LA. I was met some very odd people in LA. I think that's kind of a Los Angeles stereotype. If you want to be weird, move to Los Angeles. And I met a fellow service member, uh, a bit older than me. He was a Vietnam vet, and he was Wiccan. And we started out discussing tarot cards, and he gradually introduced me to various and sundry things. And I felt at home for the first time in a very
Mhm.
long time. I felt at home. So
Okay.
that was the beginning.
Um, Paganism and Wicca do
Mhm.
somewhat go hand in hand? Would that be a correct statement?
Yeah, so let's do a little mental diagram here. You have Christianity,
Mhm,
and Christianity is an umbrella term, and that covers Catholic, and then the basic divide from that would be Protestant, right?
mhm, correct.
And then inside Protestant, you would have Presbyterian, Methodist, Lutheran, Baptist, all of those, but they're all still Christian.
Mhm,
So pagan is an umbrella term for anything that's really not Christian or non-Abrahamic. Let's put it that way.
okay,
So, okay. So the Abrahamic religions are Muslim, Judaism, and Christian, right? Those are
okay,
considered the Abrahamic
uh,
religions. So anything that falls outside of that would technically be called pagan, even though there's some people that I'm sure wouldn't appreciate having that applied to them, but that's the division. So
okay,
then Wicca is a very small section under that term of pagan. So you could compare Wiccans to being saying Baptist.
okay.
That makes
So
sense?
it's just yeah, yeah, it does. What you're saying is it's just a branch of the paganistic belief. system, just like a Catholic and a Methodist are both Christian. I totally understand that. What is the history of the Wicca religion specifically?
Okay, so I'm going to make some people mad here.
Well, that's what
Wicca
we're all
is
about.
Wicca is comparatively a very young religion. Um, and the reason that statement's going to make a lot of people mad is there's a lot of people in Wicca that want to say, well, my part of Wicca goes back, 1,000 years. No, it doesn't. Wicca was started in the 1930s by Gerald Gardner, and that's one of the divisions in Wicca is Gardnerianism. And then other people, as they were introduced to that, just like any kind of living religious, any kind of living religion, Christianity has branched off many times. Wicca has branched off. You have Gardnerians, you have Alexandrians, you have Dianics, you have eclectics. So it keeps splitting as it progresses and it evolves.
What's the major difference between the different sects or
It's really it's little things. And again, I'm going to compare it to Christianity. If you claim to be Christian, then your one belief that unifies all of that is you have to accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. Would you say that's a true statement? Okay.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
to call yourself a Wiccan, you would have to say, I believe in the Wiccan Rede, which at its most basic statement says harm none, and that includes yourself.
Mhm.
So then you have all kinds of different little divides and divisions inside that. Gardnerians tend to be very, very much into hierarchy. If you ever meet somebody that says, well, I'm an ordained priestess of the 9th degree, they're probably Gardnerian. If they start talking about degrees and initiates and all that, they're probably Gardnerian. They're very, very, very hyper organized. An eclectic, on the other hand, if you have an eclectic coven, which there used to be one in Vero Beach, I don't know if it still exists or not. There's one down in Port St. Lucie, if you're familiar with Port St. Lucie, called Circle of the Moonlit Sea.
Mhm.
And they are eclectic. So what does eclectic mean? That means I've got this little bit here that resonates with me, and I've got this little bit here, and that resonates with me, and I'm going to put it all together in a blender, and I'm going to find things that feel right in here, in my heart, in my head. This feels right. That's eclectic. You have regional beliefs like Witta, Witta, that's Scottish. You could have Italian, based on Italian beliefs. That's called Strega. You have Norse. You have Norse pagans. So either how you perceive things or where it originates. That's your basic divisions inside Wicca.
Would it be fair to say that Wicca doesn't really have standardized like Baptist and Lutheran sects that people just can be Wiccan because of a general belief system? Would that be an accurate statement?
Absolutely. You can be a non-denominational Christian because I believe in Jesus. You can certainly be a non-denominational Wiccan and say, I believe in harm none.
Okay, well, with that, we've come up on our first break already. So, folks, I'm with Kat tonight. We're talking about alternate religions, paganism, and Wicca, and how they connect maybe with the other side. So, stay with us. We'll be back right after these messages. And we are back with my guest tonight, Kat, talking about paganism, Wicca, and other alternative religions. Do Wiccans, let me rephrase this a little bit better. Paganism is more of a nature. Once again, correct me if I got this wrong. Is but more as a nature-based religion. Would that be an accurate statement?
Yeah, in general.
Okay. Do Wiccans believe in God? I'm of the Baptist faith, so I have my vision of what God is. Do Wiccans have the same?
Not a all-powerful, all-seeing, all-knowing being. No.
Okay,
What
what is your God, or what do you perceive as a higher being?
So that's again, that's going to go back to the different divisions inside Wicca. However, in general, without making too many people mad at me, they're going to say, I believe in a duality, a god and a goddess. And that god and that goddess can come in the form of all different kinds of things. Native American, with my background, you have Mother Earth and Father Sky. Um, Oh, let's see here. If you were, say, into the Greek pantheon, which most people know Greco and Roman gods fairly well, then you might choose Zeus and Helen for your god and your goddess. Wicca is very much into dualities. Nothing is just plain good, just plain bad. Nothing's black and white. There's always something mixed in.
Okay. Now, while you say that that a lot of Wiccans can be non-denominational, if you will, do you have a generalized scripture that you abide by?
There's no scripture. It's like I said, it's a dynamic religion. It's always changing, it's always growing. However, if you choose to call yourself Wiccan, then you have to abide by the Rede, which is harm none in its most general interpretation. If you belong to a circle, which is a gathering of Wiccans, then you probably have a Rede, which is just a list of rules. Um, the circle I belonged to a long time ago had what we call words to the wise. But in general, you're not allowed to harm yourself. You're not allowed to do something that brings harm to others. And other than that, you're free to explore yourself and your relationship with the divine. And at its very core, that is Wicca, is you have a personal relationship with the divine. There's no building, there's no man to interpret the words, there's no one to stand in front of you and tell you this is what the divine said. It's strictly between you and how you perceive the divine,
And when you say the divine, you are referring to,
the god and the goddess, the
okay,
universe,
okay.
the divine.
Do you have it? Is there a, once again, understanding that there is a lot of free play is a bad way to put it, but you've got a lot of freedom, I guess is a better way to say it. Do you have a Bible, a text that you generally follow?
There's not going to be a single answer to that. And I'll go back to my comparisons with Christianity. A Greek Orthodox Catholic would not follow a King James version of the Bible, correct?
Mhm.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. So let's say you are a Gardnerian. Again, you're very focused on your circle's set of rules and its hierarchy. And have you learned enough to advance into the next level of hierarchy? If you're
Mm.
eclectic, you're out there wandering in the woods, you're out on the beach, you're listening to Mama Ocean, you're sitting under the sky at night looking at the moon, and you're going, hey, I'm here, talk to me. Very, very different.
Got it. Got it. A lot of people look when they hear the term pagan, which we now know is what the Wiccan belief is under the umbrellas we talked about before. Most people look at the Celts from Ireland and England and Scotland as being the basis of this, but that's not necessarily true, is it?
No, it's not. And there is a broad acceptance of what we call the wheel of the year, which is the turning of the seasons.
Mhm.
That is a general accepted concept in Wicca. But if you talk to someone who is into Strega, which is the Italian branch, and you get them talking with a Norse pagan and a Scottish, which is Wicca, there's a few very basic things that those three are going to agree on, but the differences are going to be huge.
Yeah. Well, now we've got kind of a basic understanding of what the belief system is. Now let's get down to the nitty-gritty on something. Are you a witch?
Yes, I am.
And do you have a pointy hat? I got to know, do you have a pointy hat?
No, pointy hats are not necessary.
Oh, okay. Just wanted not part of the uniform. I got you. Okay. So are you a witch? You are a witch.
Yes, I am.
Okay. Now, you look at how the public, how it's been memorialized in film, TV, books. Witches are of magical descent. Magic is a big part of it. But witches also, if you go back into history, if you go back into the time of the Salem witches, it was believed that witches got their power through Satan. And we'll talk about that specifically in a little bit. But are witches involved in magic? And is the magic evil?
So, are witches involved in magic? Yes, they are. Are Wiccans involved in magic? Some of them are, some of them are not. The whole thing about magic is it's optional. A lot of people that are Wiccan are just going to hold the earth is sacred. They're going to follow the turning of the seasons. They're going to do whatever they can do to help people, a la again, harm none. And you might do, you have a friend that's sick and you may light a candle for them. Gee, that sounds familiar, doesn't it? Lighting a candle for somebody. You may burn some incense for them. Again, that sounds familiar too. In order to help that person get better.
Absolutely. I mean, look at the things we use in Christianity that have similarities. The Christmas tree, the Easter bunny. I mean, we can definitely, and there's no question there were some reasons why there's connections because the Christian church wanted to bring folks over from the pagan.
So they adopted a lot of the traditions.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Much easier to get somebody on board if you don't ostracize everything that they want to do.
So what is the difference between white and black magic?
Wow, that's okay. Again, I'm going to make some people mad.
Again, that's what we're here for.
Yeah. So, my opinion, the only true white magic that you can do is that which you do upon yourself to advance your spirituality and your understanding with the connection to the divine. Anything after that shades into gray, and anything that you do to harm somebody shades into black. So I'm going to restate what I said earlier. If you are going to call yourself Wiccan, you have to abide by harm none. That means no black magic.
Interesting. Do you actually have some folks that practice the Wiccan belief that on the side delve into the black magic part?
No.
And
nope. That's a big no-no. That's a big no-no.
Okay. What if a Wiccan does do that? Is there any type of
well, they can't be excommunicated.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm going with that.
Yeah, there's no real excommunication. If you are involved in a circle and you have people in charge of that, your high priest and your high priestess, and they found out that you did something bad, they will kick you out. Absolutely. But a lot of Wiccas are what they call solitary. They don't belong to a group. They are very content to explore themselves and their connection to the divine. That's what they do.
Okay. So we're having a little bit of an echo right now. You wouldn't have to have a headset, would you?
I do. Do we need to take a break and let me find that real quick?
Well, we're almost ready to take our next break, but at the break, yeah, if you can grab a headset, because I'm getting it real bad, so I appreciate that. So there's no way to excommunicate or stop somebody. No, how do you police yourself?
Well, I don't believe that I need a set of laws. You and I we're both former law enforcement. I do not need a set of laws. I do not need a religion to tell me, hey, don't kill that person over there. I don't need a religion to tell me, don't force myself on someone who has no interest in me. That's my morals. That's my upbringing. That's, you know, my soul, whatever you want to call it. I don't need that. That makes sense?
But the,
But
it does.
it does.
But then how do
But then how
you
do you
keep somebody who
keep
claims to
somebody
be
who claims
Wiccan
to be Wiccan
when they've
when
crossed
they've
the
crossed
line?
the line?
How do you,
How,
I mean, there's
and
no way to
there's
stop
no
them
way
from
to
doing
stop
it? Is
them
that
from
kind of what
doing
I'm
it. Is that
hearing?
kind of what I'm
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's Christians that do unchristian things and claim to
All the
be
time.
hearing? All
Christian.
the time.
So yeah, you
But
can claim to be Wiccan, and you can go out and throw a rock at your neighbor's dog, or you can be a bad person. That doesn't mean that you belong to that religion anymore, though, and that's between you and the divine. Just like I would assume that if you are, I don't know, if you're a Lutheran and you go out and you commit a sin, there's no confession there. Nobody's going to kick you out of your church. That's between you and your God.
okay,
Okay.
if it, before we take our
Before
break
we take
here,
a
if
break
you had to
here,
pick
if you had to
one,
pick
if there
one,
is one
if
thing you
there is
can
one
pick
thing to pick
that is a
that
similarity
is
between
similar to
Christianity,
Christianity,
paganism, Wiccan,
paganism,
is there one?
is
Be a good person. Be a good
Can't,
person.
can't,
and that
cannot argue with
cannot
that.
argue with
Well,
that. Well,
once we're
once
going to
we
take our
we're
break
gonna take
then,
a break
once
then,
we get
once
back,
we
we're
get
going to
back, we're
talk
gonna
about
talk about
another belief system that you often get thrown in with, and that's Satanism. We're going to talk about that when we get
that
back. So,
back.
folks, we're going to
So
take our
folks, we're
break
gonna take
now.
our break now.
Stay with us. I've got
Stay with
Kat talking about alternative religions. We'll see you after the break. And we are back on Paranormal Stakeout with my guest Kat tonight with earphones on. Hopefully that echo is gone, so I'm happy about that. Um,
I, I,
that's a
I
whole
sacrificed my hairdo for you here.
what a guy, what a guy. um, one of the things that has happened over the years, there's been and it happens in all kinds of areas. People they see a topic and they think everybody's attached to that topic. And I guess what I'm getting at here is the topic of Satanism. Now, back in the late 80s, early 90s, and that's when I began to teach officers how to recognize certain crime scenes that had, satanic or other other markings of other kind of violent cults, for lack of a better term. And what I really began to find out was that Wicca, witches, Satanists, all the same. Now, history talks about witches back in the day. They got their power from Satan. That's where the black cat came from. That was their familiar that watched over them and made sure they were doing what they needed to do. So there's a lot of connection between what witches were described as back in the day and the belief in Satanism. Is Wicca a part of Satanism?
No, it's not. And again, I'm going to go back to the Wiccan Rede: harm none. You cannot
Mhm.
sacrifice a goat. You cannot sacrifice a person. You cannot harm any being if you're going to be a Wiccan. Period.
Okay, here's a question for you. And are you familiar with Aleister Crowley?
I am.
Yeah. What thou will be the whole of the law was what he liked to say in his version of Satanism or black magic, evil, whatever. And what I came to find out and a lot of times it was kids just acting crazy, but they would take that and they would just use that term, whether it be no harm or what thou be what thou will be the whole of the law type of statements is whatever they decided that meant. Okay, does that make
Mhm.
sense to you? So
It does.
how does that fit in with folks in the Wiccan religion? I mean, you have the Rede, you talked about that. You talked about you have a
Mhm.
general rule that everybody follows. But does everybody take that as, well, harming nobody? Well, that doesn't mean I think they want me to harm them, so I will. almost like a criminal, like a serial killer would
Yeah,
look at it, type of thing. Do you see where
yeah,
I'm
it
going
just
with that?
doesn't work that way. I do, and the simple answer to that is you cannot follow Crowley's teachings and be Wiccan. Crowley did a lot of drugs, not allowed.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
Crowley was
Interesting.
rumored, yeah, well, harm none. That includes yourself. And I don't think anybody could argue the fact that if you ingest drugs or alcohol to a extreme, they harm your body.
Okay. Okay.
Nobody's going to
And,
argue with that, right?
right.
So uh, a lot of people look at Crowley and they say, okay, he was not Wiccan. It was rumored that he was satanic, but again, we're talking about Victorian England, a hugely different mindset than from what we have now.
Mm-hmm.
So uh, Crowley probably gets the side eye from modern Wiccans. It's like, yeah, I know that guy existed, but not going there.
Well, you talked about the Wiccan as and I agree with you that the term Wiccan is a relatively modern term when you think about the history of how far this went back. Um, but back in the day, uh, Crowley and a lot of people with him, the Order of the Golden Dawn, they all considered themselves to be witches that practiced black magic. How did that how did that bifurcate? How did some and a lot of another term I hear a lot is white witches. Now, I don't know how you feel about that term, but black and white. When did that kind of bifurcate? Or was it always like that and we just didn't know it?
So I've done some study on Crowley and on the Golden Dawn, and it's very difficult to separate the rumor and the innuendo from what they actually did. But Golden Dawn would call themselves high magicians, high magic, which is a whole separate deal from witchcraft and Wicca, because the purpose of high magic is to bend reality to your will. And I don't
Mhm.
know of any witches or Wiccans that are interested in that. We work within nature. That's our thing, is nature and how nature works.
How do you how do you think they do you think that that division was in place back in Victorian times? It's just the stuff that Crowley and his ilk, people of his ilk did just overshadowed and was more visible, was more sensational.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you think about Victorian England, if you had a practicing witch in Victorian England, they are going to do everything they can possibly do to stay out of notice of the Catholic Church, of any of the what they called the sheriffs back then, because there were still anti-witchcraft laws back then, and they could and would drag you off to jail. So if you were practicing witchcraft, you wanted to stay out. Plus, traditionally, people that practice witchcraft live out in the middle of nothing. Like I live out in the middle of acres and acres of orange groves. There's no city within 5 miles of me. Crowley, um, all of the Golden Dawn, they lived in London and they flouted what they did. They wanted to be recognized. Your witchcraft person, your witchcraft practitioner, they might be known to the local village, but they don't want to come to the attention of the authorities. Not back then.
Okay. So, when do you believe I'm trying to what I'm trying to find out here is Satanism. How does that affect? This is a good question. How does it affect you today? Do you get pigeonholed into being a Satanist? Do you find yourself being uh, harassed over it or
It's not as
petitioned against it?
common now. It's
Okay.
not as common now as it was in the early 90s. In the early 90s, if I had a pentacle and I was wearing it outside my shirt, it was not anything unusual to have, sorry for the stereotype here, but to have some old church lady walk up to me, look at that symbol on my chest, and look at me and go, "Oh, you're a Satanist. You're a devil worshiper." Um, TVs and movies have done a great deal to advance that. I'm sure you remember the Satanic Panic of the 80s, and
Time.
that seems to be undergoing somewhat of a revival right now for some reason. And my own personal opinion is there's a lot of people in organized religion that are getting a little bit worried about Wicca. Wicca has been the fastest growing religion in the United States for quite a few years now. And the church, all of the churches are losing members, and Wicca's growing. And I'm sure somewhere way up in the hierarchy there, that concerns some people.
Why do you think that is?
That
Why,
Wicca
why are
itself is
people,
growing.
yeah, why do you, yeah, why is that?
So I remember as a kid back in the 60s, yeah, I'm old, the promise of science. You remember the cartoons back in the 60s? You and I are about the same age, Larry. Remember the Jetsons when they had flying cars and robots did all the work? Okay.
Yep.
So science was supposed to be the answer, and science took a lot of people away from religion. Religion wasn't the answer anymore. The church wasn't the answer anymore. It was science. And I think a lot of people think that science failed them. Science hasn't found all the answers to life, the universe, and everything, if you get that reference. So people started looking again, and they're like, okay, so the church didn't have my answers, and science doesn't have my answers. Where do I get my answers? And I think that's a very genuine appeal that Wicca has. It's your personal journey to finding your connection with the divine.
So you think it's more, instead of wanting to be part of an organization, it's maybe some people's desire to personally search. They don't need a group. They just need to, okay. Because what you were describing, you were starting to go down the cult road there of, some of the cults that were out there where people are just looking for a place to belong. But I understand what you're saying. Now, one of the things that you're seeing more of today, and I've actually seen it more on folks that are Satanist in a sense because they tend to be, and I'm going to get myself in trouble here, but a little more flashy about how they feel. I don't know if that's a good way to put it, but there's a lot of uh, I forget what city it was in, but they put up a satanic uh, symbolism, not a play, but a satanic yeah, during over the Christmas holidays, and it just ticked off an
Yes,
entire town up north somewhere. Um,
I think that
are
was
you seeing more?
Indianapolis.
Could have been. It was somewhere up north, but, the town got all up in arms and I'm,
Yeah. So
I'm of the Christian belief, so but I still believe that this is America and you have the right to practice anything you want. But what was your take on
so
all that?
so let's chat about that a little bit. What is and what is not Satanism? The stereotype is the person that takes a cross and paints it black and turns it upside down and sacrifices babies and drinks blood. And I don't think that exists. I have maybe some random mentally disturbed person somewhere might do that,
Yeah.
but as an
Yeah, I've investigated
organization,
yeah.
it doesn't exist. It's not sustainable. You cannot have a group of people stealing babies and sacrificing them without law enforcement catching up with them. Now,
Right,
what
and
does exist? What does exist? Levian Satanists who
absolutely.
basically, you know, I met Anton LaVey a long, long time ago when he was still alive.
Yep.
Uh,
You know what? You know what? I'm going to put you on hold because we're believe it or not, we're coming up on our next break here. I want you
Okay.
to hold that thought, and I want to talk about your meeting with Anton LaVey, and we'll talk a little bit about who he was because he's definitely an interesting person when it comes to studies of the occult. So, folks, stay with us. You're going to want to hear this. So, come right on back after these messages. Well, we're back with round four with my guest tonight, Kat. We're about ready to go into a very deep area, and I know we're going to run out of time, but I do want to make some comments up front. First, check us out again at IndianRiverHauntings.com. You can get a hold of me at ghostguy at paranormalstakeout.org. Also, check out all my other shows at paranormalstakeout.org. It'll get you back to all my past shows. Check us out on YouTube at Indian River Hauntings 2341. And most importantly, folks, check out that terrific broadcast schedule on the X-Zone Radio and Television Broadcast Network. XZBN.net will get you there, and it'll take you to some terrific shows. Kat, you're working on some stuff now, so folks can reach out to you in the future. But that's to come. Is there any way folks can get a hold of you now?
Uh, Geez. Directly? No, not really.
Well,
They can
if you got
contact me.
questions for if you have questions for Kat, get with me and I will get them to him. So
Of
with
course.
that, I want to yeah, let's get
Anton.
back to this Anton LaVey. Now, folks, for those of you that don't know who Anton LaVey is, I used to when would discuss him, I would talk about him as the father of modern Satanism. He was basically a lion tamer carnival huckster. He was a piano player. He started studying a lot of Crowley stuff, and he started the Church of Satan in California in the 70s, actually the late 60s. A lot of stars got involved in it. It was new, it was exciting, and he really made it a business. And then there was another gentleman that came. He was an army guy that broke off from him, and his name just went right out of my head. Uh, but he also pervade this new version of Satanism. So go ahead, tell us about how you ran into Anton. I want to hear this.
Uh, I wish it was a lot more thrilling than it really was. There was a club in Los Angeles called the Magic Castle, and it was a place for stage magicians to basically present new tricks to other professional magicians and say, okay, how does this illusion work? Do you guys like this presentation or that presentation? And I was very lucky. I had a friend invite me to there. And on the evening that we were there, Anton LaVey was there. Now, one of the things that I have heard about Anton LaVey was that you called him a charlatan in a stage show, but he was a stage magician. And he
Yes, he was.
purposefully cultivated this creepy thing was part of his act.
Oh yeah.
So I met him. I met him very much en passant. Um, Basically, he walked by and I went, "Oh, hello, Mr. LaVey," and he looked at me and I'm like, "Are you performing tonight?" And he basically said, "No, piss off, peasant." But
Okay.
he was not a pleasant man. With my experience,
No,
he was not a pleasant man. He
no, he
was, however,
wasn't.
very charismatic. He did have a presence to him, absolutely.
Mhm.
Um, but his Church of Satan, I think, has mutated far beyond what he ever envisioned.
Oh,
I think
absolutely did.
my personal take on that was he started that whole thing to dodge taxes. Uh,
Well,
he he supposedly inherited a good chunk of money from relatives, and he didn't want to give it to the government. So he's like, "Hey, I'm a church now."
yeah, and I'll take it one step further. I think he was a bit of a marketer too. He saw something new that people were going to get really interested. Many of the Hollywood elite were connected with him back in the day. Jane Mansfield being one of them. There's several folks. I won't even go into all the names, but he was charismatic, no doubt, and really pervade this bit of Satanism. Now, here's where the problem came in. Then kids would start reading it. He wrote the Satanic Bible, and kids would read that, and they would start to practice it. And that's where we started having problems, especially in the late '80s, early '90s, where it became popular again. Kids read this stuff and they did stupid things, and that's where a lot,
Hmm.
and they would leave those kind of trappings behind when they did stupid things like hurting animals or hurting people. So it was a heck of a mess for a while, and I blame a lot of his teachings on that. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah. And there was a confluence of events there also. You had the rise of the latchkey kids and
Yeah,
the two income family and the lack of supervision of the Gen
amen.
X kids. And I think that lack of parental supervision led to a lot of very bad things. I know they did with a lot of my friends.
Well, and
So,
that's yeah, and that's what happens when people are looking for a void to be filled. They will fill it with something that allows them permission to do what they want to do. And I think that's where a lot of that went, and I saw that as a cop investigating this because a lot of my work was crimes against children, so I dealt with a lot of that. Uh,
ouch.
but it wasn't the fact that we had satanic cults hidden under rocks everywhere. It really was people that maybe had a screw loose or maybe
Mhm.
got started reading too much into it, and it was individual people committing these acts, but they did it under the guise of Satanism, and that's where Wiccan really began to get connected to Satanism, at least in the modern sense. It's they started reading the history, and well, Wiccans must be Satanists.
Yeah, which is an absolutely ridiculous concept because how, if you do not acknowledge the Christian God, how are you going to acknowledge his opposition? That's just not logical.
Mhm. Yeah, very true. And that's a whole different subject, but I want to get into something else. I'm going to switch gears a little bit here now because I want to get into more of the realm that I deal with regularly, and that's the other side. What happens after we die? Ghosts. Do do folks that practice Wiccan beliefs, what is their thought on what's on the other side? What happens after we're done?
So, again, you're talking about a diverse religion and different segments of that religion. But in general, I think if you asked a Wiccan what happens to you when you die, they're going to either say, well, I go to however they name their paradise, the Elysian fields. Um, they become one with the Great Spirit, whatever. Very few Wiccans are going to tell you that they do not believe in some kind of an afterlife, however they may
That they
envision that.
do or do not envision an afterlife.
They absolutely, they're going someplace. It's going to be a good place because hey, they're good people. They do good
Okay.
deeds. Wiccans, you're going to find a lot of them in the medical. You're going to find nurses and nurse practitioners. You're going to find firefighters. Wiccans do their best to help people. So when you find people helping people, you're going to find Wiccans. They may not tell you that's what they are, but they're there.
Yeah, no. Now, do you find as far as the belief system, do they believe in ghosts? I guess is the what I want to ask. Do you see?
Uh, I would say that the vast majority of Wiccans believe in spirits, um, certainly nature spirits, which are not human, tree spirits, spirits of the earth, that kind of
Sprites,
thing.
elves, yeah, mhm,
Yep, yep.
okay,
But human spirits, yeah, there's a lot of Wiccans that practice mediumship. I've met a couple. There's one very well known guy in your area in Vero Beach that I believe used to be an attorney. I don't remember his name at the moment, but he's very well known in Vero. Do you know who I'm talking
uh,
about?
no, I don't, but if you knew the name, I'm sure I would.
I'll see if I can come up with that and get back to you on that one because I'm sure he would be an interesting person for you to talk to. He is a professional medium. I don't know
Mhm.
what his religion is, however.
Mhm.
So yeah, if you talk to a Wiccan about, ancestors, guidance from spirits, a lot of them are going to say, yeah, I talk to my deceased grandmother quite often. She leaves me little signs that she was there. I come upon her favorite song anytime I turn on the radio. Um,
Mhm.
I see butterflies and I know that they're around. So absolutely, the other world is definitely a part of Wicca.
Well, and that's what I was gonna ask next. You read and you still continue to read tarot cards, correct?
Correct.
Who is providing that answer for you through the cards, in your opinion?
Intuition.
What's your well, okay, so is it your own mind that's doing it, or is it somebody or something on the other side?
I would say it's my own talent. And I'm going to go back to your former profession. I'm sure you ran into some investigators that were really, really good at their job, a notch above everybody else. And once in a while, they would make some kind of leap on that evidence. And you would say, well, why do you think X? And their reply would be, that's what my gut is telling me. You had to have run into that at some point in your career.
Oh, we all do, and I agree with that, but there's many that would believe that that's the other side giving you a little nudge, but what you're saying is it's our own innate ability, what's already in us. Is that what
For
I'm
me
hearing from you?
personally, yes. For me
Okay,
personally,
okay.
it's my intuition. It's my talent. I can't throw a 100-mile-an-hour baseball. I can't run a 4.1 40-yard dash, but I have very good intuition. It's a talent.
But where does that intuition come from? Is it your brain is circuited a certain way? I'm saying it kind of haphazardly, but you get where I'm coming from. Is it
Yeah,
organic
yeah.
versus spiritual? Okay, that's interesting. I've not heard it put like that before. That's very interesting. Do you have a philosophy yourself on what's on the other side? Is it a collective conscious?
I
Is there
do
a
not.
heaven? Anything?
I don't have an answer to that. I don't claim to have an answer to that.
Okay. Have you in your work in your belief system, working with cards, have you ever had a paranormal experience yourself? Something that you would be consider that it was reaching out from the other side?
Yeah, I was wondering if you're going to ask me that. So, about a decade ago, I was reading cards and a lady came in that was from the Appalachian Mountains. I believe she was from the Western Carolinas. And I did my standard reading for her, and she was happy with it. And my area where I was reading was an old desk, and she was a large
Uh-huh.
woman. She was over 6 feet tall. And when I was finished, I asked, "Is there anything else that you need to know that I didn't cover?" And she reached
Uh-huh.
across the desk and grabbed my hands and said, "I need to know if my mama is okay." And I had this shiver go through me like somebody had dunked me in ice water. My posture changed, my voice changed, and I said something to her along the lines of, "I'm watching over you. You take good care of the babies." And I jerked my wrists away from her. But for that brief 2 or 3 seconds, I was not me.
Well, that's definitely paranormal nature, and unfortunately, I'd like to continue this, but unfortunately, our time has run out, but that's a great place to end it. So I wanna thank you so much for spending some time, with us tonight, explaining some of those things and your personal experiences. So thank you for being on the show, and thank all of you out there for watching tonight. Uh, please, as these times get a little bit rough out there, always take care of your family, take care of give those kids a hug, give that spouse of yours a big hug, and take care of yourselves. Hope to see you next time, folks. Take good care of yourselves, and we'll see you on the other side. Have a good night, folks.